Hi there. Thank you for tuning in to episode 12 of Saving the Republic. As you know, I'm Ethan Holland. Joining us today is Nate Dunning, as always, Skylar Walksman, and Jordan Clements. Unfortunately, Kelly Neidert has still not joined us, but she will, and I promise that she will. Today, we're talking about the 2020 election as well as the 2024 election, a list of executive orders, and some SCOTUS decisions. And we will be revising our bets from when CHAZ would be dissolved and see who won. Thank you for tuning in to episode 12. So as it turns out, CHAZ actually did not work out. It's already dissolved. Jordan, what were our bets, if you could lie that out for us?
So our bets were Nate Dunning said 2 weeks at most. My bets was 2 weeks to a month. Skylar was 1 month, and Ethan was no longer than 1 week. And that was from the episode published on June 15th.
So that means that I lost by 2 days, but I was actually the closest. So not to flex or anything, but
Well, granted, we also recorded that a few days earlier.
To be fair, you also said no longer than 1 week. So I think
and we recorded that on what, the 13th? We recorded that on the 13th?
Hey, we do not pre-record in this podcast.
Yeah, this is all live, completely unedited. Zero editing happens at all. I don't stay up till 2 a.m. the night before editing the videos.
No, he does not. And Jordan and Skylar are on the campaign trail like some good white people conservatives. They have their Francis hats on. Wow. They're getting paid a pretty penny by all those NRA donors. So here we are with CHAZ being dissolved. What do y'all have to say about that? Because it's just so stupid. Let's see. They had 3 murders within a week, unless I'm mistaken. They put up a border wall. They put in their own police system. They had a leader. Was he like the mayor or something? Reyes, whatever. Anyway. They had their garden and their list of demands. The truckers stopped going in there. And of course, what are we hearing? Oh, Rez was a failed leader.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of thought Raz was a Republican because, you know, we see Elon Musk kind of being his red pill moment kind of coming right now. So Raz drove a Tesla and was handing out guns out of the back. So, like, I kind of thought he was Republican there for a minute, but I guess I was wrong. So
you were wrong.
Well, there is a rising group of liberal left-wing individuals who are very pro-gun, because like Vox Media, for example, is saying how the left needs to retake the gun issue. And their main argument is, look at 1917 in the Soviet Union. They didn't take over with a bunch of Starbucks cups and tweeting.
Yeah, for getting like tattoos and living in your parents' basement. And so what's annoying me the most is they're like, oh, it's just a failed leader. So he gets put into the pile of Maduro, Chavez, Ortega, Castro. What's the others from Europe? That's just Latin America.
Khrushchev.
Even all of them.
Brezhnev, Gorbachev, Gorby.
There you go. Yeah. But hey, when the right person does it, it's gonna be amazing. So supposedly. Anyway, but
it's just never been tried in the right way, you know?
Right. I'd like to say that, it's a good thing that it got dissolved, whatever, and that it makes sense. But I really had no idea what to expect from CHAZ. I really just had no idea. I was like, this might last forever. This is just people on a rant. I mean, it's just so stupid. I don't think it's bad that I'm not surprised. It's just it takes a lot to surprise anybody in 2020.
Yeah, for me, I was like, I thought it could go a month because I was like, if the mayor doesn't step in and the state police, if they don't step in, then it could go for a long time. But they sort of had to stop it when there's murders going on. So yeah.
Yeah, and then they like dismantled the Seattle City Hall or something.
Well, what I thought was really weird about the murders and the shootings that happened were the victims were calling for like trying to sue the police and EMS for not actually going into CHAZ. And I was like, wasn't that the whole point, was that it's an autonomous zone?
Well, it's all the businesses who kind of got drug in against their will, because you figured that a bunch of these soy boys going up erecting these border walls, there's going to be a good amount of people on the other side of that fence that's going to be like, yeah, we don't want this, but we can't move. And it's kind of almost like what happened between India and Pakistan. They erected the borders, and some people were like, oh, we don't want to be here.
Well, I was kind of
Did
thinking.
Did you say soy boys?
Yes.
Yes, it was a Soviet Union.
No, yeah, I got it.
I was actually going to compare it almost to a Berlin Wall situation where you had people trying to like get on whatever side they wanted and thought was going to succeed. Mm-hmm. Now, I assume, and I've seen that a lot of those people actually failed at picking which side would succeed, but you know, they tried.
They tried, he said. Yeah, what was their mission statement, I guess is my question. What was their goal going into this?
I don't think they came up with a mission statement.
Well, I remember they were trying to say like no more cops. They wanted like more money devoted to Black Lives Matter. And it ended up, all I know is none of their demands were met.
Yeah, none of the demands were met, and honestly, like, I think they dissolved it just out of embarrassment because they created they created exactly what they said they didn't want, and actually a worse degree too. Three murders within a week with that many people that were in CHAZ is terrible. If you look at that, like for how many people were in CHAZ compared to per capita throughout the country, that is a terrible death rate. And it's just an embarrassment. And then the gardens, that cracked me up. The gardens.
Anyway. And what's sad though is that what's so tragic about this is CHAZ is so innocent, so naive, and yet Cain and Abel lasted longer before they started killing each other.
I mean, I've seen a few toddlers throw tantrums in like grocery stores and restaurants before, and this is kind of what happens when you don't punish that. Mm-hmm. So when you let the toddler throw a tantrum at like, I don't know, 25 to 30, that's kind of what it looks like.
Do y'all think, I was watching Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how he thinks that it was a good move on Seattle's part to just let them take over, because it's like when you're a kid, this is the example he used, like when your kid wants to tie their own shoes now, but they have no idea how to do it. And so it's like, oh, you want to tie your shoes? And so they take a step back, and then they're like, go ahead and tie your shoes then. And then they sit there staring at their shoes for like a minute because they have no idea how to do it. And then you have to go in there and tell them, okay, you get the rabbit ears and you do it like that. And I'm just like, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I think he's onto something, but I don't necessarily think Seattle has done anything smart in this last month, like at all.
I mean, we could make the argument that Seattle
make a better city.
We could make the argument that Seattle hasn't done anything smart in a very long time.
Well, no, it's
as
Seattle.
A city.
You talk about California. Seattle is like California on steroids. Seattle is so much worse. Seattle is. I went to California and then I went to Portland, and I was like, I have no desire to go to Seattle because from just what I've seen so far, and they say that Seattle's worse. I want nothing to do with that. That sounds so just terrible. I went to San Francisco like 3 years ago. That's the only place in California I've been. That was all of California that I needed to see. And I actually didn't go to In-N-Out. Totally forgot. But so I went to San Francisco. It's true. There's syringes on the sidewalks. There's crap. I was like, nah, it's just the media.
When he says there's crap, everywhere. He means there's literal crap on the sidewalks.
Human crap. Not like in the stockyards, like, horses. No, like this is like human feces. And then Portland is like worse. You talk about San Francisco. No. You haven't seen anything. Go to Portland. Portland is so bad. It is so bad. We went out because we were bored, me and my dad, at like 11 o'clock at night. Not a good decision. There was like nothing open. Everything's closed. There's always protesters. And I find it funny that in liberal cities there are protesters, but all the people that they want elected are elected. It's different like if you protest and you're living in a place where your higher-ups have different views than you. But when you're protesting and you agree with the people in charge, then you shouldn't have to be protesting, if that makes sense. I just find it ironic.
I think there was an Austin like a couple weeks ago. They like vandalized the city hall, and they were like talking about how they what did they put on there, like fascist or something like that. But
I haven't gone
Austin
downtown
City.
forever.
It's like they're complaining to like the city of Austin. It's like I don't like wasn't the last Republican on the city council.
Don Zimmerman.
Yeah, someone, but I don't. I swear there's currently not. I think there's currently not a Republican city council member.
There isn't.
Austin. And so, wasn't it Chuck's Clear or something like that?
Maybe I don't know. Point hasn't been for a while.
Yeah, so like they're complaining. So they're like spray painting like fascists or whatever, but they are currently run by like liberal Democrats.
But it goes to show kind of like where they believe the power lies. Like you think like a key difference between those on the right and the left is that those on the right believe that the local authorities have the most power, that the local governments are the most effective creating this change, while those on the other side of the spectrum typically believe more in like federal supremacy, believe that it is up to the state and national government to take care of it. Cities are more or less territorial divisions, so that's probably they're not going to be satisfied. So,
and I think most of us, at least on this show, believe in kind of a federalist system of giving power to local governments as opposed to federal governments.
But of course, not too much. We don't want like cities overrunning us, like Austin.
Give power to the states, but like
local agreed.
Cities, like there are a lot of local, bureaucrat dictator types that, they want to mandate everything. So I'm hesitant of the local control argument that we always hear.
Well, because cities are manifestations of the state. They're artificial.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of sad thing about Austin is that the state has to step in with things like their homelessness problems and such.
Yeah, I live there. Like, ironic. It's not like what Ethan was describing is going to be Austin within the next 10 years.
I mean, I visit people on West Campus and stuff like that, and there's like homeless people that just like run up at like college girls and are like, "Give me $40 or I'm gonna just mess with you," things like that, and like no one's there to stop it.
Oh, I've seen that in West Campus. I haven't seen that in like West Campus because I've gone there a lot. Cause that's like where the social scene is. Well, scene
to
is.
The listeners confused, they are referring to the Inferior University of Texas, which is a Texan just in name only. The Longhorns. That is what they're referring to when they say West.
The Longhorns.
They mean Western.
Ethan, I think you know what we have to hit him with right now.
College in Texas. And I say that as a member of the UT system. I'm embarrassed.
Ethan, I think you know what we have to hit him with
California in Texas. Oh, right. There we go.
No.
Who knows whose camera this is showing? This is Zoom.
Yes, but
it's showing Nate right now.
Let's just.
Oh, it's showing Nate. Is it showing Nate?
I think I just pinned some video right there.
Now imagine, do y'all think that the people in CHAZ are college educated?
I mean, theoretically, UCLA and UC Berkeley are colleges.
What are you saying, Skylar? Nate's got this big compressor mic, and Skylar's using headphones.
Yeah, exactly. College education doesn't really have much to do with actual intelligence. You can be an educated idiot and an uneducated, could be an uneducated genius. Education generally, and I'm not. But, yeah.
I wasn't necessarily generalizing that. I'm just saying that it's more ironic if they are all college educated. I would imagine that most of them are in college and they were just like on break.
I mean, but colleges like UCLA and UC Berkeley are also considered colleges. So
I think this is
and they charge. How much does UCLA charge?
I have no idea, but they are considered to be
Jordan, how much is UT like room and board and tuition like all at the end of the day per year?
So tuition is roughly like 10K, like 10, 9 something. It depends on what college you're in. So for example, I'm in the Macomb School of Business, which is number 5 in the country. So don't give me that inferior UT crap. But
I'm talking about morals here. You're a Californian.
Now
do you like In-N-Out though?
Oh God, no. Well, I like it. Okay, I like In-N-Out. I like In-N-Out. I like In-N-Out, but it's inferior to P. Terry's and Whataburger. But
I'm not referring to education. Nobody goes to college for their education.
Okay, yes, but UT, it's like, sorry, 10,000, like 10 to 10,000 to 11,000 roughly, right? For tuition. Just depends on which college you're in. Macombs costs more than the College of Beaux-Arts, for example. Room and board, it depends on what dorm you're in. The cheapest ones, like the older ones, will be like, or like the unrenovated floors of Jester back when they had that, be like 10,000. Though if you want
so
like your own
20, 30 a year basically.
Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to have like your own room in like San Jacinto, which is one of the newest dorms, it'd be like almost 20,000.
So UCLA is $35,000 a year for in-state. Out of state is $64,000 per
Do
year.
illegal immigrants get in-state tuition or out-of-state tuition?
That's a very
in Texas, in-state. In Texas is in-state.
Mm-hmm. I assume it's the same in California.
Oh, it's whatever's more convenient is what it is. Not most logical. It's whatever at the end of the day is cheapest.
My freshman year, the YCT chapter I'm currently the chairman of actually did a tabling event over that, calling for it to end. And the next day, State Rep Kyle Biederman filed a bill to end it. Though it being the 86th session, of course, nothing good came out of it except for red light cameras being banned, the property tax bill being decent, and
I've ran so many reds ever since that day. When I got that notification, I was like, "Oh yeah, here we go." It's like a daily thing now.
You do realize that they're still up. It's a phase out plan, right?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pay it.
Well, you were never actually obligated to pay those. You didn't have to.
No, yeah, you're right. There's like a big libertarian sticker saying, "Don't pay your throw out your red light camera tickets."
Well, they're not very accurate, but I hear they do great work over there at YCT. I'd love to be a part of it one day.
Yeah, I'd also love to be a part of YCT at some point in time. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to start a chapter on a campus, but I'd seriously consider it.
I hear if you go to YCT.org and then you hit start chapter, they tend to respond like within 10 minutes.
Yeah, they're pretty quick to respond, even if it's like 1 a.m.
But so I think that pretty much covers up our opinions on CHAZ. There's not really much to talk about because it's a bunch of idiots, and that is not an inflammatory comment. That's just how I feel.
And now Seattle's getting sued for it.
As a quick transition, I just want to make a quick announcement that we are going to be, all 5 of us, recording in person soon. More details coming on that later. And Jordan is going to be an addition on the team, but more details are coming to that later. Just enjoy his presence for now. Anyways, and so now we are going to be moving on to our next topic.
So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of Supreme Court rulings that have come out recently. One of them is ruling that the 1964 Civil Rights Act actually protects LGBT employees from discrimination from their employer based on their sexual orientation. The logic there was that because your orientation depends on your sex, that if you're discriminated against because of your orientation, it is essentially because of your sex. Because you can't have a sexual orientation without sex. To me, it seems a little convoluted, doesn't really make sense. What are y'all's thoughts about that?
So my first thought that comes to mind, coming from a Christian education background, is that it kind of steps on the feet of religious institutions that may be forced into keeping gay people on staff, even though that goes against their religious beliefs. Just things like that would be concerning for the religious community, especially since terms keep coming up like separation of church and state and things like that people, especially on the left, have been screeching about for the last very long time since I've been alive, even before then. So that's my initial thoughts on that.
So I know like a lot of textualists and originalists were kind of disappointed that Neil Gorsuch was the like sided with John Roberts and the liberals on this decision, and he actually has been defending it, saying that this is the originalist textualist definition, while like Samuel Alito in his dissent just tore him anew, essentially saying like Antonin Scalia would never have joined this. Though, like personally, I actually have a personal conspiracy theory because this might be my denial phase of I might be in denial still that Gorsuch could do this, but my theory is essentially that he created such a bad legal argument that he poison pilled it, because one way or another Roberts was gonna vote for this, and the liberals would have won. And if RBG, for example, the notorious RBG, I should say, if she had written it, it might have been like a stronger legal case. But since Gorsuch did the way he did, maybe it can be overturned one day. Who knows? But basically, the Supreme Court is the only branch of government that's legislating.
It was a little surprising to see Gorsuch, or really surprising to see Gorsuch join the liberals. Like we've seen Gorsuch side with him on different cases, and so he's actually it's not weird that he would side with him, but on this specific case, I can't think of why he would join them. It's totally a surface level thing. And what I've heard, but what I've heard is that he's doing it to preserve the image of the Supreme Court and to keep its popularity.
Yeah, like whenever Gorsuch sides with the liberals, whenever Gorsuch signs with the liberals, it's because like it was right to do so. Because the thing to know about the Supreme Court is just because the liberals agree with the liberal wing, which would be Stephen Breyer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sotomayor, and Kagan, like just because they all agree on something doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's not like Congress, for example, where like Nancy Pelosi is agreeing with it, there's a pretty good chance that it's bad. If the liberals are on, like, if it's good legal arguments, then it's good legal arguments. But in this case, it was just off the wall. Like Samuel Alito, like if y'all are big legal junkies, I encourage you to read Alito's Ascension, because he tore Gorsuch anew, essentially, in the most cordial, polite way as the Supreme Court demands, and basically said that the original Antonin Scalia, who founded textualism, would not stand for this, would not stand for the abuse of that ideology to legislate from the bench.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I would definitely recommend to read those. They tend to be very interesting sometimes, and I think this is one of those times.
Yeah, and what Jordan was saying about, it's not like when Nancy Pelosi says something's, that example. It's true because, in Congress, they're always following the trend because they have to be reelected. They're always, every single 2 years, they're very flaky on their beliefs because they know that this is a time of 2020 where it's a new headline every minute. And so I need to just follow the course, just coast with it, and line up with what everybody thinks they believe. And on the Supreme Court, you're there for life. So it's just, I'm there.
Yes, but part of that is also because of the job itself is interpretation of law.
But Jordan, did you say that his excuse was he wanted to preserve the popularity of the Supreme Court? Did I hear that correctly?
I said that. That's something that I've heard.
Oh, that was Skylar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gorsuch just cited that way in order to preserve like the popularity of the court. Because I don't know.
I feel like Roberts is the same thing.
Who cares about the popularity of the court? It's the Supreme Court for that reason, so that.
Something that Roberts always wants to talk about, though, is he wants to make the Supreme Court have as little controversy as possible. He wants to escape this era of polarization without having a new Dred Scott case that throws the country into a civil war. That's what Robert's mindset is, at least. And that's probably why he did this, is because he knows that if the Supreme Court were to say, yeah, gay people can be fired for being gay, especially in the lead up to Pride Month, we might have two riots competing for each other. And I think Roberts just wanted to avoid that controversy.
What was the actual case about specifically?
I see what you're saying. Hold on, before you answer, I see what you're saying, but he's still sparking controversy by doing what he did.
But conservatives don't riot. But conservatives don't riot. I don't agree with what he did.
Well, I mean, they riot in the effective way, if that makes sense. They don't do like a CHAZ. They do like a hold on until we get there.
They do a hey, let's show up to the polls and put people in office who think, hey, maybe we should elect Supreme Court officials,
they do more of a long term,
impose a term limit, things like that.
They do more of a long term solution. But Nate, what was your question?
My question was just what was the original case that the Supreme Court was looking over that caused the ruling?
I have it pulled it up right here. It's from like NPR, so take it as you please. But it says two involved employees who sued after contending they had been fired because they were gay. One of them, Gerald Bostock, won awards for his work as a child welfare coordinator for Clayton County, Georgia, but said he was fired after he joined a gay recreational softball league. As he told NPR in October, within months I was fired for being gay, lost my livelihood, lost my medical insurance, and was recovering from prostate cancer at the time. It was devastating. The second case involved Donald Zarda, a now deceased skydiving instructor who was gay. The third case was brought by Amy Stevens, who worked for 6 years as a male funeral director in Livonia, Michigan, but was fired 2 weeks after she told her boss that she was transgender and would be coming to work as a woman. She died earlier this year, but her case lived on. Anyways, yeah. So that was that.
Well, I certainly fall into the camp of a business should be able to hire and fire anyone for any reason that they see fit. I mean, that's just how the system works. And if something like that were to happen and it were to get media attention, it looks terrible on the employer. It's not something. It's not necessarily something that needs to be legislated on, because in a true free market system, that's something where the publicity from that action happening would essentially cause essentially cause a ripple effect that causes a business to get shut down if that reflects the beliefs of the community.
But how does this compare
I would go ahead, Scott. For me, I would prefer if it were actually legislated rather than come down from the Supreme Court, because look, if Congress wants to write a law saying that you can't fire people because of their sexual orientation, then I would probably disagree with it, but at least it would be coming from the actual legislative body that is tasked with creating laws rather than the judicial system, which is supposed to determine whether something is constitutional and lawful. So I'd prefer that it come from the correct branch.
I agree that it didn't come from the correct branch, but I also disagree with the law itself that has been the case law that has been created by this.
Well, how do y'all think this compares to the bakery from a few years ago that didn't want to sell the cake to the gay wedding? Or
they basically are retrying that, is what it sounds like to me.
Because I don't know if y'all saw the video of Steven Crowder, because you know how Muslims tend to fall to the left. Steven Crowder went to all these bakeries that were all Muslim owned, and he went dressed up as if he was gay, and he was like, hey, I'm getting married, can y'all do my cake for me? And it was he went to 10 bakeries, and all of them told him he couldn't do it.
So that was more of a right to refuse. That was more of a right to refuse business to people. So let's say you're trying to sell me something, and then you find out, oh, I'm a conservative person, I don't want to do business with you anymore. That's where your right to refuse service comes in.
Right. And the thing to note here is the difference between the gay bakery and the Christian bakery and the right to fire is they are completely different sections, different titles of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
I don't think there's a discrimination on the basis of sex provision and the refusing service title. I think that's Title 2. I want to say Title 2 is the one that deals with that that states that businesses can't refuse service to like based on the basis of skin color. I don't think there's one on the basis of sex because no one refused service to women at the time. So and that's part of the reason why a lot Alito tore into Gorsuch over this court case ruling is because back then, especially in 1964, homosexuality was not something that was on the forefront. Stonewall wouldn't be for another 4 years. Even MLK, I want to say, was like vehemently homophobic. A lot of like the early feminists were anti-lesbian. Just was on the forefront. So to say that they did like the basis of sex for that is just ludicrous.
Yeah, I agree. It's that kind of legislating from the bench that I feel like people should be against and completely dislike.
I don't know why it's
just
even
because
a debate, though. I just don't understand why it's a debate because you have the legislative, you have the executive, and you have the judicial. So
I would be curious to see
controversy about it.
My big curiosity comes when a church fires someone who came out as gay, or a Christian school, for example, things like that, where there would be a solid argument for that being the government stepping on the feet of religion.
Yeah, and I think
go ahead.
And I think that kind of lends itself to like my Gorsuch's poison pill theory that eventually this can be overturned because Gorsuch probably knew that Roberts was probably gonna join the libs on this, and he created a very faulty argument that can eventually be overturned because there's no religious basis to discriminate against someone for their sex. Well, okay, actually it does depend on the religious I should correct myself. It depends on the religion, but if there was like a Supreme Court case about that, like a fundamentalist Christian or fundamentalist Muslim company firing a woman or refusing to hire women, I'd be interested to see what the result of that was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen anything where that has happened before, but I'm very curious to see what happens in the coming months with cases going to various lower level and eventually upper level courts to see how this plays out.
And what people are forgetting is like, yeah, we have a pandemic, we had the Black Lives Matter, but there's still a ton of stuff going on with Supreme Court, with executive orders. We're about to talk about the elections. There's so many things going on, and all these people are just focused on COVID and all these things. Meanwhile, the SCOTUS is doing this, all these executive orders being laid out. It's like, why can't people just recalibrate? Why can't people just refocus? I'm really starting to get frustrated with that. At this point, first COVID was scary. Then it was like, uncertainty. And then it was acceptance. And now it's just annoyance. It's just annoying. It's just a pill.
At least they got it right on the asylum seeker one. At least they got it right that at least they got that one right.
Yeah, yeah. I still think there's more to be done, but I mean, it's a start.
I mean, a perfect system, at least for immigration, I think we are still far from it, but there's going to have to be drastic change to find at least a close to perfect system or even one that's just significantly better than the one we have.
Sure.
And I think both sides are going to have to give some on the immigration issue because
we each have very opinionated views on the immigration issue, and bringing in Kelly, she has hers too, and that will be coming in the near future. That we will be going into deep detail on that for about an hour.
Yes. But anyway, just to kind of subframe it a little bit, I think at least letter of the law wise, they seem to have gotten it right on this one. But at the same time, it's still somewhere where we need to continue working.
Definitely. Well, I think we've each given our takes on this. Anybody else have more comments on it so far? All right, I think we're all good. So next we're going to be talking about the 2020 election. But not only that, the 2020 election, I mean, I think it's a pretty safe call, but whatever. Even if it's not a safe call, it's Biden and it's Trump at least right now. So there's only so much that you can talk about until the debates start happening. But in 2024, there is like a lot. I keep looking at 2024. I'm not even like looking at 2020. 2024 is my big concern. Anyways, we're going to talk about that for a little bit.
So on now to the 2020 election and kind of looking into the future at 2024. So I've heard a mixed bag from both sides of the aisle on the 2020 election. I've heard Republicans say we need to try to get everyone out to the polls because I don't think Trump can win. I've heard Democrats say the same thing, but for Biden. I've heard Democrats say that there's no way Trump can win. It's going to be Biden. I've heard Republicans say there's no way that Biden can win. It's going to Trump. So what are y'all's kind of predictions on the election?
My prediction? Yeah.
I think it's just our three.
Specifically the presidential race.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna bet that MAGA. I don't know about y'all. That's just my bet.
It's actually CAG right now because
no, not anymore. Not since this COVID nonsense threw us into recession.
Oh, so now we're back to MAGA. Okay, that's great.
No, I'm saying it's MAGA. Make America great again.
Yeah, I heard Pence say that the other time. He's like, and now we will make America great again, and I was just like, okay, that's
yeah. So my bet is, I bet Trump will win re-election, but only because of the debates. I think that right now, if the election were to be held tomorrow, he would lose. Because he hasn't.
I disagree with that, but but why? Why do you feel that way?
Because Republicans seem to be like a bit more because Republicans are mad at are upset that Trump hasn't taken a more hardline approach to all the riots and stuff and everything going on. Because
and
while
CHAZ,
he has taken
just to throw it back a bit,
while he has been saying the right things, he hasn't been tough. He hasn't been sending in National Guard. He hasn't been doing what he's been threatening to do. He's just like to some Republicans, he's been kind of in his bunker and waiting it out. So I think a lot of Republicans are kind of going like, what the hell? But I think that in regards to the actual election, I think once you put Trump on stage with Biden, where CNN will have and NBC and stuff will have, or whoever's going to host the debates have no choice but to show Trump unedited live, I think, and Trump's going to blow a Biden-sized hole in the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And
on the thing you're saying about Republicans being mad at him, I can kind of
her and Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro didn't even vote in 2016. I find that so.
Well, he's a Trump supporter now.
Now, sure, but that's another conversation.
So my
Trump
rule
is a moderate as a running.
Focus on what you just said, though. I can kind of agree with that. It's kind of annoying that he hasn't just sent him in. And anyway, but at the same time, kind of waiting it out, some would argue is a good strategy. I think it depends on who. First of all, I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that tends to be a strategy. I think that's what happened with CHAZ, and that's why it's like done. It's like, oh really? Like the thing that Joe Rogan was saying about your kids. It's like just give them a second, and they're gonna be confused. It's like when you're a kid and you're like, I'm gonna run away, and then your parents like pack your bag for you, and you make it like a block away, and then you come back. That's basically what's going on. Now I don't know that applies to like Chicago or Minnesota or anything like that. There, I do think he should have done some different things, but. At the same time, though, his approval rating in 2017 compared to now is what, like 12 points higher? I might be mistaken. When he first got elected, wasn't it like 36%?
His approval ratings were a lot higher right before COVID. I haven't seen the new numbers.
But in 2017, his approval ratings, like when he first got elected, were like in the 30s, I think. And
yeah, it was low.
COVID, he was ticking up to like 52%. And now he's at like 48, I think, or 47. So my question is to the people that voted for Trump last time, and in the GOP, it's 96%. It was 98, but it went down to like 95. But I don't think that anybody that voted for him in the past has changed their mind. If anything,
I think even the Republicans that say they don't necessarily like him anymore, like Joe Biden, less enough to the point that they would still vote for him again.
Well,
and
they
kind
would,
of
even if I think they would vote for him even if they don't like him because of what Nate's saying. Joe Biden would be such a disaster. It's not even going to be Joe Biden. It's going to be his vice president. He's going to make it about a year in, maybe 2 if we're lucky. And she will be calling all the shots, or maybe he'll be president, just not doing anything.
honestly, I don't think you should assume pronouns like that, Ethan. That's just honestly rude considering we don't know.
He said it will be a
He
woman.
may have said
That's
it
why I
was
said
a woman,
she.
but we don't know what her pronouns will be.
Okay, all right, I guess.
Well,
Sorry.
also something we need to consider is that unlike 2016, where we had like Gary Johnson as the LP candidate, who was a relatively known governor of New Mexico, now it's like Joe Jorgensen, who's not very well known, unless you're like unless you have friends who are still libertarian and follow the Libertarian Party for whatever reason.
Skylar, as our libertarian friend on this podcast, what are your thoughts on him?
Well, libertarian leaning, but
Apologies,
Leaning. I'm
libertarian
so sorry.
leaning.
Oh, Joe Jorgensen. Joe Jorgensen. We're talking about Trump or Joe
who are we
Jorgensen?
talking
Joe
about?
Jorgensen.
Oh,
That's a chick.
that's a chick. So that kind of proves our point.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Apologies.
I'm not sure what's her like claim to fame. I know she's been involved in the Libertarian Party for a long time.
I think that's it. I think she's just a
She's
party
like
insider.
activist,
Well,
pretty
'cause-
much.
So
So
somebody to
essentially, Joe Biden, but as a libertarian.
Well, I joked around as
Joe Biden's actually a career politician. Joe Jorgensen, I don't think
Career
held
activist.
any office.
No. So something important to know about the Libertarian Party as a recovering libertarian is the way libertarians select their nominee is not like how Republicans and Democrats do. It's a lot like how they did it back in the old days, where it's party officials and party delegates that vote for the vote to send the delegates to the national convention to vote for the nominee. So it's basically a party insider game. So if you are active in the party for a long time, you get rewarded because all the other fellow activists know you and are able to kind of elect you into elect the delegates that will vote for you in the national convention.
Gotcha.
And Joe,
Something that's really bizarre is that they vote for the presidential nominee and the vice presidential nominee separately. So they ended up with
Bill Weld.
Bill
Last
Weld
time.
last time. Last time you had 2 governors. You had Gary Johnson and you had Bill Weld. So people with actual experience. Now you have Joe Jorgensen, who's not, doesn't have any elected experience. But that's not that bad compared to the vice presidential nominee, Spike Cohen. Just an absolute joke. And it's kind of just makes a mockery of the whole party, which is why he's a great reason why a lot of people don't take the Libertarian Party seriously.
And of course, the reason why we're mentioning this is, as opposed to 2016, where the Libertarian Party seemed to have somewhat of a viable candidate until Gary Johnson was like, "What's Aleppo?" They don't really have that this time. They only have an activist, and like you could make the claim that like yes, Trump was also very inexperienced, but at least Trump had a national name recognition from his show, was known to be a successful businessman. Joe Jorgensen is no one outside of the Libertarian Party circles. I actually posted something. I quote tweeted her, and I said, "A vote for Joe is a vote for Joe."
I mean, as we've just proven, case in point with me, I didn't even know that Joe was a she. I just assumed that Joe was yet another man running.
Well, it works on Twitter because her name is spelled just J-O. So you can spell it out. A vote for Joe with an O is a vote for a Joe with an E.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, there.
That was a lot of information about the Libertarian Party that I can't say that
anybody cares about.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more than anybody cares about. I mean, it's the Libertarian Party.
I think the election is just kind of, it's really interesting because I think Trump is a way stronger candidate than Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden isn't a good speaker, and he's just not the right guy for right now.
Well, think about this. Trump rallies, they wait like 3 days and outside, and no matter what the weather is, and then Trump speaks for like 2 hours. Joe Biden, like people wait. I guess there's somebody out there that waits longer than 5 minutes, but his speeches, I think his longest rally was like 20 minutes.
Yeah. what I was gonna say though, so like Trump's definitely the stronger. Yeah, Trump's definitely the stronger candidate. But the thing is, Biden does have a lot going for him, in that kind of the economy is just shut down, and people attribute that to Trump. Meanwhile, the the number of coronavirus cases is still going up, although it's really not, as a percentage, it's really not that much, but the number is still going up. So they pin all of it on Trump. But like Jordan said,
you really think Biden has the ability to capitalize on that?
No, once the debates happen, yeah.
But do you really think that you can use COVID against Trump even in the economic situation? Do you really think that anybody, whoever the candidate is, can capitalize on that? Because, well, no, especially not Joe Biden, because if you look at the economy under Obama, when they had no circumstances, the disaster that was.
Well, the thing to note with Joe Biden, though, it doesn't have to be him that capitalizes it. All it has to be is like some super PAC that does it for him.
Sure,
to have no contact with him. That's all it takes.
At the same time, the second he gets to a microphone and has to defend himself, he's not going to be able to do it.
Well, yeah, and that's why that's why Joe Biden's trying to cancel the debates.
Most families like mine remember in 2008 when everybody's incomes dropped like half. Like we all remember how it was, especially if you're like a true middle class family. Firsthand that was a disaster. Now, of course, some of that is Bush's doing, but that's
whether he even brings it up or not, it's already something that everybody's experiencing, and just naturally, a bad economic situation is not going to help the president. The thing is, it's totally government forced. It's a government forced shutdown of the economy, which we're creeping back from now. The ironic thing is that Trump's policies are actually, way better for the economy than Biden's would be. But because of the coronavirus, it's all gonna get pinned on Trump. And so I think it's gonna be a close election. I can't predict it one way or the other. Because Trump's policies are all good, I think.
How do y'all, we're all conservatives, we're all gonna have to go campaign. We all work for YCT, whatever. What are y'all's takes on looking at the polls? Because remember, the polls in 2016 did not reflect on election day at all. That was a complete spin around, in my opinion. Because I remember watching the TV and I was like, wait a second, wasn't this supposed to be different than this? And I'd be flipping through all the different, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. I'd be watching all of them, and I'm like, wait a second. They were saying, you mean to tell me this many people changed their mind in one day? And then, so now here we are in Texas, and they're like, Biden's going to get Texas, bro. I highly doubt it.
I highly doubt that too, but a big difference, though, between the coverage in 2020 and the coverage in 2016 is in 2016, they focused on the nationwide polls. And the nationwide polls actually ended up being correct. Hillary Clinton beating Trump and the nationwide popular vote by roughly 2%. But what the news didn't realize was Electoral College is what reigned. They never really reported on local state polls. That's not what they're doing this year. They're focusing more on state polls. I haven't seen a single news station covering the national polls saying like, Biden is leading Trump nationwide 46 to 44 or whatever the numbers are. They've been focusing more on he's losing in these key states, and that's what they weren't doing in 2016. They were focusing on the popular vote, which was correct. It's just we built this country to not rely on the popular vote.
So kind of my thoughts on this, coming from a data science background, is that data is very easy to manipulate and very easy to mess up. It could be either one, but it's very easy to manipulate the polls even just a little bit. It's very easy to say, let's get 20% of our callers that we call for this poll be let's say people from New York City. That's 20% that's most likely going to be liberal based off of the demographics of the area.
Yeah, during election night, it was funny. We saw the results coming in, and whenever we saw that, like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Florida and was it Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The blue wall fell. Ironically, Trump won by a wall falling.
Yeah, so we saw all those go for Trump, but then like the consolation prize is for Democrats is like, oh, you got California, like you won California by a huge margin, so congrats on that. But that wasn't, that was basically where Hillary's popular vote margin came in for the most part. I think was like she won California, and so
and possibly from legal alien votes too.
Yeah.
And dead people voting.
Mm-hmm.
Dead people coming back to life just to vote and then going back to the dead. Anyways,
Well, I remember there's like a funny joke out there that's like my
podcast.
Well, I remember like there's like a joke that says my grandfather said he would die before voting Democrat, but you know what? He did vote Democrat in 2016 after he died in 2015.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what will be interesting is after this election, no matter what, there will be a new Republican nominee in 2024, and it's going to be very interesting to see.
Who do y'all think the nominee is going to be in 2024? No, never mind. Who do you think is going to run at this point? Do y'all think that? I think we're about to run.
Greg Abbott's going to run. Abbott's going to run. Cruz is probably going to run.
Abbott's going to run. I really don't think Abbott's going to run. If he does, I don't think he's going to get traction. I do think Cruz is going to run.
So better
Nikki
question.
Haley,
who do you want to see in 2024 running?
I want Rand Paul to run.
I don't want Rand Paul.
Can't handle the Randall.
I don't want Rand Paul.
It's all going to be people that try to piggyback off of Trump. So it's going to be, I think Trump Jr. probably would run, which, would make me want to barf. But
Charlie Kirk.
I like Don Jr., but then I get PTSD from the whole Bush dynasty, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that again. Nope.
So I could see Abbott running. I think Trump Jr. probably would run. I think Crenshaw would run.
Is he old enough?
I saw a Dan Crenshaw for president group on Facebook, and I was like, oh God, that's
I think he probably would be. 35.
Yeah, Crenshaw's a no for me.
I think that Cruz has reached the maturity to be able to make a good president. I think that in 2016 he wasn't ready for it. Maybe it's the beard, but I feel like now, especially in 2024, 4 years from now, I think then he would actually have the ability.
And things like
videos from his first term.
I mean, we also see
precedent-wise, Cruz is most likely to win the nomination because Republicans tend to nominate the second place in the year before. HW got second, so Ronald Reagan got second to Gerald Ford, and then HW was second place to Ron. John McCain was second place to W, and Mitt Romney was second place to Mitt Romney was second place to McCain. Now Trump did throw a wrench in that, but Trump threw a wrench in a lot of things. So Cruz is in the best position to win the nomination, though I think Nikki Haley would probably get it.
I think Nikki Haley's going to be thrown in there, at least as a VP. Now, Trump endorsement is going to be like, who's he going to endorse in 2024, if anybody? Who is Trump going to endorse? Because especially if Junior's in there.
Yeah, or if Trump loses in 2020 and then decides he wants to hang around and runs again in 2024 and just like haunts the Republican Party. That would be pretty interesting.
Pulls a Grover Cleveland.
If he lost, I don't think he'd run it again. I think his ego would be damaged too hard.
No, he would say though that it was rigged by the Chinese.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what? It probably will be.
I mean,
he will
it's
say
either
that
going to be rigged by the Chinese or the Russians, depending on who wins.
No, what Trump is going to say is he's going to say that if he loses, it would he won't contest the election, but what he'll say is that China essentially rigged it by releasing the coronavirus on us, and because they knew that Joe Biden was a weak man, and by releasing the coronavirus
through China, it's going to be the DNC did it using China. That's what.
Yeah, using coronavirus to use COVID to cripple the economy. Now Joe Biden has not had any recovery. We will make America great again.
Yeah.
Like that's
all right. We love an impersonation, guys. I'm so bad at the Trump impersonation. I'll never be able to pull it off.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up our thoughts on the upcoming year's elections. So I think that does it for this episode. Follow everyone you see here on social media. Follow Saving the Republic on social media. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. We're out.
If you like this content, please like, subscribe, share it. If you hated it, like, subscribe, and share it. Thanks for tuning in.